Well, good morning and welcome to Austin Technology Council's virtual roundtable with EX Squared. I am Amber Gunst. I'm the CEO of Austin Technology Council, and we're thrilled to have all of you here with us this morning and sharing in this topic and conversation. We do want to let you know that we are going to be taking questions through Slido. The Slido code is 23043. Again, that is 23043, and we're using Slido so that we can download the questions afterwards and be able to get any questions that we're not able to answer for you. There will also be a poll in Slido that will cover questions as well. And again, that code is 23043. And I'm now going to pass this over to Michael Kreider with EX Squared, and he will lead off the conversation. Thanks so much, Michael.
Hey, Amber, thank you. Hey, well, thanks for that. My name is Michael Kreider. I am the head of marketing for EX Squared. We are an innovation and digital transformation company based here in Austin. We're part of the largest marketing organization here in Austin. So we're a little secret, but we're trying not to keep it that way. And we want to thank the Austin Technology Council for letting us join their group and interact with other technologists throughout town like this.
And I'm Mike Peliquin with the EX Squared as well, and I run our sales division.
Thanks, Mike. I didn't really put a title on this slide, but we wanted to talk about the way that a lot of companies are dealing with the changes that are going on around us and the way that they're readjusting their strategy. So here at EX Squared, we've got a fair number of clients that had a digital strategy mapped out till the end of the year and some of them into next year. And when everyone started sheltering at home, all of a sudden they had to reevaluate their strategies, how they were talking to people, how they were connecting, what messages that they wanted to send, and so on. So we got really busy really fast with projects that we didn't think we were going to work on until Q3, Q4, Q1 of next year. So we wanted to share some of those stories and other stories that we became aware of with our analysis of innovative uses of digital technology around the world. And Jess, how do I get you to move on to the next slide? Next, please. So Mike, you wanted to start with a poll?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to, as Michael mentioned, we talked to a lot of people, and things are really COVID has really kind of shaken up a lot of people and a lot of businesses. Just, individuals were all working from home. Businesses are kind of really trying to change how they're thinking about this new world, this new normal. So it's interesting. We've got a great group of diverse companies online today, and I'm just curious, based on this poll, where are you in approaching the new normal? Are you maybe not thinking about making significant changes? Maybe you're still in the decision mode of thinking about, well, how do we make and assess our digital dexterity? How do we react to this COVID with digital resiliency? Are you making any changes? Have you already changed? We're just curious. I mean, we can share some evidence that we're seeing from our conversations as well, but it would be great to hear from all of you. And since we all can't get together, what you're thinking.
And Jess, how would we do this poll? How do we access this poll?
It's up on the Slido, so I can.
Of course.
So as you guys vote, we'll talk about that while we continue. But I think it's great to kind of have this conversation. There's no such thing as a business that's not affected by this anywhere in the world. And certainly there are really some interesting stories out there that are starting to bubble up about how companies have tried to make some really interesting pivots very quickly. And everybody is kind of somewhere in these 4 steps.
Yeah, I remember the shock that I was in March when everyone started working from home. And the way my focus was, honestly on my personal circles instead of my professional circles. And then our clients started to reach out to us. And it was interesting to see the variety of responses across our client base. Some of them, like I said, were in shock like I was, and just wanted to share that and to reality check that what they were experiencing, individually and professionally wasn't abnormal. Others were able to focus and start planning and moving forward really quickly. Some of them found themselves in a good position from a business standpoint of having increased demand and increased sales. Some of them didn't see really much of a change, depending again upon what business that they were in and everything.
So it sounds like for most of what we're seeing, 67% of you are making changes, and I would imagine that's a wide. Making changes is a big means a lot of things to a lot of people. It would be interesting to know, kind of what changes are being made. Is it with HR and your working remote staff? Is it? And we don't have a poll for that. I'm just throwing out some questions, but. Is it technology? We're seeing we're having a lot of conversations around with major companies, and we're talking Fortune 100 companies, our clients, making significant changes and actually quite being really nimble in some of the things that they're talking about and doing. I'll give you one case. We've got one of the largest CPG companies in the world. They, when COVID kind of hit and supermarkets, Kroger's and Targets of the world, we're starting to see huge shortages on the shelves. They actually turned their salespeople into shelf stalkers and just said, look, don't do anything. Just go stock shelves, help these people out. So you've got these, you can imagine, seasoned sales reps going out that are used to talking about pizza, and stocking shelves with pizza or stocking shelves with coffee creamer or what have you, are actually just pulling things off a truck and just running it into the grocery store and stocking shelves alongside the guys that are doing it. It's an interesting and innovative approach to solving a near-term problem, but it I think addressed a lot of the things that we're seeing in the market right now, and that is people are trying to be empathetic in their business rather than reactive, and are showing that kind of we're all in the same thing together. And it was a really interesting thing to listen to them here about how they kind of changed the dynamic of their North American sales team.
Yeah, for what it's worth, a lot of the people that we deal with, just by nature of their job have to be more nimble. But yeah, leaning into all different aspects of the business process. Okay, Jess, next slide, please. So again, when everyone started to change their behavior and shelter at home, one of the first things that marketers did was just to recognize that had changed and to sort of stop right there. And so they used the tools that they had, email being the primary one, to reach out to the people that they could reach out to, meaning the people on their email lists. And this clever teacher from West Virginia was able to create a poem out of all of the introductory lines that she received from marketing emails in the first couple of weeks of quarantining. And that's a real interesting approach. It recognizes, as we've been talking about, the commonalities that people are experiencing, but it doesn't go beyond that, right? It's a awareness that everyone is trying to figure out how to adapt without any insight into how they're adapting. So this is kind of, a marketing 101, but it's not really a change in the actual business process, or it's not a change in the business strategy. And it's certainly not a really deep understanding of what's going on in the customer and their lives and their minds. So next slide, please. Yeah, so some of the more clever companies realized that they could insert their merchandising and marketing into the new patterns and behaviors of their customers. And so, Mike, I don't know, did you find yourself hanging out at home, drinking a little bit more for a couple of weeks?
I can't admit that. I'm not going to say one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comforted that in Texas, liquor stores were deemed an essential business. My understanding in California, the marijuana dispensaries were given the same kind of classification. So that was good. So you see some, again, forward-thinking companies like Guinness adapting not just their messaging, but some of their marketing campaigns to recognize the changes that are going on with people. Okay, next slide, please. So really what they're seeing, really what these business strategists and marketers are trying to do is to understand their customer's journey and how that journey would have changed and how they need to adapt to respond to these changing customer journeys. So one of the things smart marketers do is map out their customer's journey. And the customer journey is really just the way a customer lives their life, right? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? How do they get the things that they need to make their life easier? How do they interact with the things that make their life more enjoyable? And to come up with marketing and business strategies to insert their products into the customer's lives, into the customer's journey at different places, you know, to make your product or service more essential and more interesting. And this is a capture of a customer journey map, really trying to measure all the touch points. And this is really the activity that the smarter strategists and the smarter marketers are doing. So not just recognizing the commonality and not just changing some of the marketing, but actually giving some thought into how everyone's life has changed and what are the different places that you can go that you may not have gone before to actually touch those customers and to touch their lives. So Mike, not to put you on the spot, but are there new products or new items that your family has been interacting with during this time that you hadn't previously considered?
I will say that our capability of ordering on Amazon has increased by 350 to 1,000% at least. So it feels like. I hate to even see what the credit card statement's going to look like, but I think we have discovered, like anybody kind of working remote, that all of a sudden the infrastructure we have at the office, we need to bring that to the house. We need to have that at the house. Right. So we've bought new routers. We've bought you know, stronger internet access. We have, especially with teenagers at home, gaming and school, the impact to our network has been pretty strong. My wife and I work from home as well. So, you know, from that perspective, we've had to bring the office infrastructure to our house, which means that we've had to buy things we wouldn't normally have purchased. And it's interesting to watch, and I think we've all experienced this, is that businesses that we typically would have gone to buy something are now coming to us and are meeting us at our home. It's not just Amazon being able to deliver things to our house. It's Best Buy. It is Chewy's down the street that you know, you can now order margaritas and have those delivered to your house, along with some food, of course. But we're seeing a lot of just innovation and moving things to a virtual world. Entire organizations are moving virtually. Nationwide, for instance, has decided to close most of their offices in North America, and because most of the work could be done at home. And that's a significant impact to their office real estate around the globe and around the world, or here in the US. So I would imagine around the world, you're going to start to see a very different perspective on real estate when offices when we are able to come back to office. I mean, Twitter has now announced that everybody can work from home.
Yeah, and it's not just Twitter; it's a lot of the technologies out west.
Yeah. So I think as a family and as a business person, we're seeing a reaction to merchants, whether that's in the services industry or that's just in regular daily life, meeting us where we need to be. And that really kind of speaks to, when we're talking about utilizing digital in a brand new way, digital dexterity, digital resiliency. We're talking about companies trying to make that shift. I noticed in our poll that 17% have already made a change with respect to COVID-19, which is I think a telling statistic, even in this small group, that people have already gone completely into a new direction because of COVID and have reacted and are learning from others in the space. But when you're talking about digital resiliency and digital dexterity, you're talking about meeting customers now on the internet in a brand new and completely different way than you had expected them to interact with your business. And we're starting to see that more and more in the client conversations that we have.
Right. And we talked about nimble businesses, and of course, Austin Technology Council is nothing but a collection of nimble businesses that are able to execute really quickly. So, Jesse, can you move on to the next slide? So this is actually a client of ours, MI Homes, and they adopted an interesting strategy, again, given the new normal. So the home building industry went through a really interesting change. Obviously there's a lot of inventory out there, but when you think about the used homes, meaning the homes that you and I are living in, where we may want to move, there was a change on both the demand and the supply side there. On the supply side, nobody wanted strangers walking through their house. No one wanted to leave their house to let strangers walk through their house. And so the number of, what the industry calls used homes dried up significantly. The anecdote that I heard was that 4,000 different listings on the MLS just here in Austin, Texas, were removed within the first week of sheltering in place. From the new home manufacturers, that's a huge opportunity. I mean, they've got a long delivery cycle, so they've already got plots of land, they've already got homes that are in flight that they could customize or not. But the problem that they were facing was that people again were sheltering in place and didn't want to leave. So MI Homes came up with a solution to that actually went through some evolution. So the first thing that they did was just put some instructions on how to build your own Google Cardboard, or how to build your own cardboard glasses that you could put your phone into. And I hope that, given that we're all the technology council, that we've all played around with this kind of technology where you essentially build, well, you can see the picture there. You essentially build a holder for your phone, and then you load a special app up there that gives two different images for your two different eyes, and it recreates the illusion of depth so that you can experience something in 3D. So the first step, like I said, was that they just had instructions on how to build the cardboard, but then they realized that they could get some marketing in there. And on this page here, you can actually fill out a lead form and they will mail you the cardboard. So something that's already perforated with instructions for you to fold, and it's got some foam in it. And it's just a lot easier to use than building your own. So if you haven't already, I suggest you go there and get your own get your own cardboard for your phone. The next step is that they already had an app in place, but they modified that so that they'd be able to show off some of their 3D technologies so that you could actually make a tour of the house, right? And because you were loading up their app, they were able to get some GPS latitude and longitude information for you. And so they knew which homes they had for sale, which floor plans they had for sale in that locale. And they were able to, highlight those so that you could visit the homes through the glasses that you might actually visit in person. And this has been a huge success for them. The amount of live leads that they have has gone up by hundreds of percentage. That they initially saw a dip in sales, that has turned around. And we're just really excited about the success that they've seen through this. Mike, have you ever used the 3D goggles?
Oh yeah, it's very cool. I haven't used it in this illustration or in this case with MI Homes, but I mean this really proves the point of being very adaptable and very quick to realize that no one's going to go on property and walk around a house and view it in the way that we will all have historically bought houses before, which is you get in, you get the key, you walk in, you touch the walls and the paint. And this gives them a very unique experience, but it's also cool, right? It has a cool factor to it. I mean, how many times have you given your kids a Google Cardboard and say, here, play with this, and all of a sudden you don't see them for like an hour and a half because they're walking around with this thing on their face and they're walking into walls and whatever. But it's a kind of a really cool, forward-thinking. They had the kind of the pieces in place already. They were already kind of thinking about this. COVID just accelerated that reaction, and they were able to enter a market well ahead of competition and give something to their users that's new and different and engaging, but meets their customers where their customers are, which is in their own home. They can't get out, and they don't want to get out. I think it's a novel approach to thinking way down the road, and having a plan in place, but being able to, and this talks about digital dexterity, being able to bring those projects forward very quickly. It's not just a matter of, hey, we got a good idea, let's do it. It's all of a sudden people have to stop doing what they're doing and make a hard left or right turn and start accelerating these things. So their infrastructure had to change, their people had to change, the way they developed the marketing content around this, the approach and all of that, all had to change really quickly. I mean, we're talking about in a matter of weeks to be able to get this out the door and to have the supply of the cardboard ready to go. Also speaks about being able to think ahead of time and have supply on hand. So it's really a great story in an industry that's not typically known for being technology leaders, frankly. So
yeah, I think this has been launched for about 3 weeks now, and I don't honestly know where it was on their overall roadmap. But you mentioned on the poll that I think it was 17%. Said that they've already gone through changes, and this shows that especially in the digital realm, that the changing never stops, right? That there's interim work you can do, and then expanded work you can do, and then once you get something like an app into people's hands, the evolution of that rolls out over time as well, with starting with a minimal viable product and then adding more functionality, which is what In My Homes is doing.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of anecdotally about some of the customers that we can talk about and talk about, because that in my work and my team's work, we talk with people all the time, so we kind of hear exactly what's happening at the moment it's happening, and how different organizations are really kind of reacting to that. I mentioned our CPG client being able to just pivot their sales team to not take orders, but actually be stocking shelves. We have another client in the CPG space that is massively, there's another huge global player, and they are not in the application business, in the mobile app business. They've only launched one mobile application in their history. Or, obviously it's a 100-plus-year-old company, but in the last 10 years, they've only released one. Now they're releasing about 5 or 6 over the course of this year, and are accelerating those applications because their customers now are at home. So they're going to be utilizing things like Alexa skills. They're going to be utilizing calendaring built into the Alexa skill. They're going to be talking about not just ordering their products through the normal means of going to the store, picking it off the shelf, but integrating Alexa into that buying process, to being able to speak about their particular products, ask questions about their particular products, and really all of a sudden engage Alexa in a brand new way that they have never would have thought of before. And the way they're doing that is by doing proofs of concept, very, very quick iterations on low cost ideas, getting something that's even a soft launch into a limited number of hands just to start testing. It's not like it has to be perfect right now. And that's another point about kind of being resilient and dexterous, is being able to not worry about it being perfect right now. It's get something out there, work with your clients, work with your customers, work with getting that feedback, internalizing that, and quickly spinning it back out. And again, meeting your customers where they are. And I think the next slide kind of talks to that.
Yeah, it reminds me of Sam Walton's autobiography, which is called Ready, Fire, Aim.
Yeah. But you talk about Fortune 100 companies trying to make this change. They're not known for moving fast, right? This is like changing the direction of the Roosevelt aircraft carrier. It doesn't change very quickly. So how do you do that quickly? And I think it speaks to the power of their internal organizations and the willingness of the people that they brought on board to really kind of change their ideas.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the sphere that we work in, is that we're really dealing with the people that could move fast like that.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's just really exciting to be in this space right now. I've been in digital technology and digital innovation now for most of my career, and I haven't seen it this exciting in a long time. It's terrible that it's happening underneath the umbrella of people dying and becoming really sick, but it's out of this, I think a lot of new businesses are going to be. I've got to look for the good, right? So
yeah. No, a lot of change for all of us.
Yeah.
So Jess, can you move to the next slide? So we're going to talk about MGM Grand, or MGM Resorts, which is the organization with I think it's 4 different casinos in Las Vegas, and the whole city of Vegas shut down, and all the hospitality industry has been hit pretty hard. They gave a lot of thought to how they can go about reopening, and came up with their 7-point safety plan, which involves a lot of the components that you've seen already, with social distancing and a lot more frictionless interactions. And just, if you could do the next slide. So they're updating a lot of their installed hardware, as well as a lot of their digital technologies, to accelerate all this frictionless activity. So they're looking at their customer touch point, their customer journey map, like I showed you earlier in this conversation, and just really considering every single point, and where can they make something digital if it's not digital, and where can they reduce the friction if there is friction, where they could reduce the touches where there are touches. So one of the big changes is going to be the check-in process, where you don't have to wait in line anymore. You can register once you have the app. Again, with the GPS, they know that you're in the facility. You can check in. It gives them the opportunity to upsell you when you check in. Once you get to your room, you don't need a physical key anymore. You can use your phone to unlock the door. And in the rooms, they're starting to upgrade what you need to touch to be able to operate. So the alarm clock and the water faucets and all these other things that you're existing in a physical space, but how can you keep from interacting with these physical products and still get the enjoyment and experience that you're looking for?
And I think this, you know, keyless entry on a mobile application has been around for a couple of years, right? We all travel. We've all gone, you know, done our Marriott or Hilton or Fairmont or whatever, but we could always check in with this kind of technology. But I think what MGM is doing a little bit different here is they're centering their consumer experience to utilize technology in a new way and interact with their property in a different way, and use the mobile application here, not just to unlock the door, but to provide a number of different services around it that hadn't been thought of, that may have been thought of before and as part of a longer journey of a roadmap, but all of a sudden compressing that and bringing that closer in, so that when MGM does open up again, they're going to have a completely new experience that their users can have through their digital touch point. And, you know, there's a lot of room that, you know, I can just think MGM, you know, where they can actually take this technology forward. So,
and they're saying that 2 of their properties, New York and the Bellagio, are going to be 2 of the first hotels that are opening up. And I think it's imminent. I mean, I think it's in a couple of weeks. And in addition to the in addition to the technology changes, you know, they're doing a lot of marketing and messaging changes as well. Part of it is the process of keeping everything clean, but then the other part of it is messaging to people that everything's staying clean. So as you're walking around, you know, you see the clean, but you also see the notices that it's clean, and it reinforces, you know, your feeling of comfort and safety there.
By the way, you know, Michael and I love to talk about this stuff. So if you're not asking questions, please throw questions up there. We'll drone on and bore you to tears sometimes. But, you know, these are exciting times. These are exciting things we're talking about, exciting moves in business and accelerating that. But this is interactive, so we'd love to hear from questions from you guys and take those. You don't have to always wait to the end.
Right, but we don't have a case study around drones, so
yeah.
They got to provide that. Jess, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so Peloton is a really interesting case study. You know, they just had an earnings call and talked about the growth that they were experiencing. And, you know, to get to the headline first, their stock's up, I think, 63% after their call. And, you know, that might seem intuitive because of the products that they have installed in people's houses, the bicycles and the treadmills. But Peloton at the beginning of the year, you know, had a retail and had a physical strategy. They had almost 100 showrooms that were open around the country. You know, they thought that people wanted to experience these products before they would buy them because of the price points. And that was the direction that they were going. Even after people stopped, even when the purchases that were already in flight, they even had to stop those as well. When you buy, like I said, they've got the bicycle, but they also have a treadmill. And when you buy the treadmill, it comes with home delivery and home setup, right? Because it's a big thing with a lot of pieces. And they even had to stop that. Again, like I was saying about in my homes, no one wants strangers in their house anymore. But what they realized is that, you know, again, they looked at the customer journey, they looked at the customer touch points, and that they've got other paths into the house. And one of them was the in-home content that they created, right? So the classes that you could subscribe to, which are a recurring revenue. And so they doubled down on the push for that, and actually got to be so successful around it that they stopped most of their traditional marketing in mid-March, right? So all of their ad buys, all of their display ads, all of their paid media, they just dialed that down to zero because the word of mouth was taking off so much. The way that they focused on this was a number of points. You know, first was of course the quality, right? That they were delivering the workouts that people were looking for, and the ones that would work for them. More yoga because of the whole family experience. It's a workout that's open up to more people, and specifically more family workouts. And they also leaned on the PR lever to make some of their instructors kind of minor celebrities, right? Get them online and help them promote themselves and help them promote the Peloton brand, and got to this point where their users, their subscribers, were not just looking for the workouts, but looking for the instructors and following them around as well. And so this caused them in Q1, which ended in March, to actually double their paid subscribers. So people that didn't own their hardware, but just were subscribing to the workouts, doubled to almost 1 million people. It's like 900,000. So this is a huge success for them. And Mike, I don't know, you've kind of built your own Peloton at home, right?
Along with Peloton being a real success in kind of tapping into that home gym experience, home health experience, that we all wear these devices now that measure our heart rate and our, in our health and those kinds of things, and how many steps we take, and they're all, those sales are also going through the roof. Heart rate monitors that you strap on, those are also doing really, really well. A competitor to Peloton is a company called Wahoo, and they create indoor trainers for cyclists like myself. So we can take our bike, put it on the indoor trainer, and run it, and get trained on that, and stay active and healthy. The ancillary application that Wahoo works with is a software company called Zwift, ZWIFT, which is a virtual, it's a game, it's a cycling game. Essentially, you get to pedal around the world with people that you can meet all over the world. You've got an avatar, you're on a bike, you're pedaling up the Alps, you're pedaling through Zurich, you're pedaling through New York, Central Park, whatever. That has seen a dramatic upswing, and being able to change the trajectory. Zwift is this company that has been around for a while, but they're very seasonal, and so everybody in the northern hemisphere logs on during the wintertime and works out, and logs off in the summertime, and so they update their application during the summertime with all the fixes and bugs and new enhancements and new features and new routes and all that kind of stuff, because not a lot of people are on the system. That's changed with COVID because they want more people on the system. They've had to balance with, this is great, but we've got we have tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of new people around the world that are joining our solution. They're all new. They've got brand new bikes. They got a brand new machine. They sometimes can't get those machines because they're so popular right now. And so it's, how do we keep these people on board? And so they're adjusting to newcomers coming on board, giving them special classes, putting them into special classes of cycling, and reacting almost in real time to what's happening to their base. So I think you can see that across, that's Mirror, that's any other home technology that you use to train yourself. You're seeing a huge spike in that going forward. We have a question here. What other sectors are struggling to pivot, and what other success stories? We've covered a number of success stories here. I think we're learning these success stories in fast order. I think a lot of companies are really heads down trying to make some changes, and I'm looking forward to really digging into some great case studies in the coming months. But as far as companies that are struggling, I think, outside of the services industry, manufacturing is a huge industry that is suffering. Oil and gas is suffering. The big construction is also suffering because you need people physically on site to build these things. So I think it's those are going to be longer term, maybe a year plus, 2 year plus impacts to their business. what's interesting in manufacturing, and what we're finding in talking with manufacturing prospects and clients, is that they are really trying to transition very fast into digitization and automation, and taking manual processes out of it. And if they can automate through robotics or AI or machine learning, and or even in some cases building 3D models, so that their technicians can go out and actually take a look at touchless ways. Those are really interesting things that they're thinking about and working on. And now those are really, I think that'll change how manufacturing is done in some ways, and delivery of hardware to the home.
Yeah, and there's a building on that. There's another question up here. It says, if this is really the new normal, should these updated business processes be permanent?
Yeah.
Or companies be looking at a temporary restructuring instead? So that's a good question. And, like the previous answer, it kind of depends upon the industry, and it kind of depends upon the company. Really, the assessment that we try to do is whether the changes that or the changes that industries and companies are experiencing, whether they're cyclical or, whether they're more permanent, right? So are some of these changes the function of the economy contracting, and then whether you think it's going to be a U-shaped recovery or a V-shaped recovery, meaning whether it's going to be slow or fast, will the pre-existing business conditions and the pre-existing business models be back in place and work, or if it's going to be something like restaurants, obviously, where you've got to think about the new way that people are going to be interacting. I mean, restaurants, entertainment, live music events, for example. How do you do those? Those are more structural changes, right? Versus people working in an office, which they can transition to the home, and so they're more cyclical changes.
And I think that kind of talks to your next slide, Michael. If Jessica can move on to that one. But I think to answer this question, we're seeing, it's kind of great to talk to and see ideas and case studies, how people and businesses have reacted. This company out of China being one, we'll dive into in a second. But I believe in talking again with our clients and prospective clients that we're seeing a shift from shock of, oh my God, my entire team is working from home. I've got my industry has changed. My users are not coming to my physical location. To all kinds of, I've got my family at the house and I'm trying to work at the house. All that stuff that happened in March in early April is kind of flattening out a little bit. We're getting used to this idea. I think that in conversations that I've had with these companies is that the changes that they're making, I think a lot of them are going to become permanent. I think nationwide, from just a real estate perspective, is an interesting case study. But when it comes to the companies that in the CPG space that we're talking to, those two clients, some of the changes that they're making, they see this as a 4 or 5 year effort, and it becomes a permanent effort. And I think that's encouraging. It's when the internet was born, it changed businesses.
Yeah.
A global impact is changing businesses. So I think there's going to be a lot of permanent changes made organizationally, with respect to who's doing it, how they're doing it, and then really where they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the smart people started thinking about this in February, and I'm going to exclude myself from that category. And really what we've seen with our clients right now is, like I said at the beginning, is an acceleration of plans that they already had. Yeah. So things that they were expecting, projects that they had on the books for Q4, they want to get done in Q2 now. And while the execution team is going off to execute, the strategic team is analyzing and considering the longer term impacts, right? And readjusting their 3 and 5 year plans.
Right.
So this is another CPG example. There's a cosmetic company in China called Lin Qingzhan. And as you could imagine, when people started sheltering in place in China, which happened, of course, earlier than it did here in the United States, all of their retail store traffic dried up, right? So this company had over 300 retail locations, a pretty substantial footprint inside the Wuhan province. And the Lunar New Year, which is a huge festivity and family-oriented activity across the globe, but especially in Asia, everything got locked down right before that over in China or in Wuhan. And so Lin Qingzhan saw their sales, their in-store sales during Lunar New Year, which they thought would be through the roof, fall by 90%, right? So their sales are falling 90%. 300 of their shops are shut down. Everyone that all their workers have to stay home. So what could they do? Well, one of the first things that they did was transition their marketing budget and invest in influencer marketing, realizing that if everyone's at home, they're going to be chatting with other people, they're going to be bored and on their phones, and that influencers are a way to impact the way that they're thinking about products and examining products, which was a very clever shift for them. They also got their sales clerks from their stores engaged with the influencer marketers. So all their sales clerks started following the influencer marketers that they were contracting with, and the influencer marketers started following their sales reps, and they were able to jointly grow their follower base like that, and their communication touch points like that. And then the employees, the sales clerks, which are now kind of associate or junior influencer marketers, started reaching out to the people that were engaged with the influencers and offering them through the phone, through the chat and on the telephone, this sort of same kind of the same kind of beauty consultation that they were offering in the stores. And this had a huge success for them, where the initial sales in the stores were down 90%. Coming up on Valentine's Day, they saw their sales go up 120%. And in fact, one of the statistics that they released is that in 2 hours of sales on Valentine's Day, they did the same revenue that they were able to do in 4 of their retail stores being open all day. So for them, this is really making a silk purse out of a sow's ear, where they were dealt a pretty lethal blow from the retail perspective, and were able to transition into an online e-commerce perspective, especially with the concierge services that they were offering.
And we've talked a couple of illustrations here in hospitality and CPG space, only because they are kind of really heavily impacted by COVID. And, whereas manufacturing, those are orders that have been placed months ago and are still in process of being put together. Within oil and gas, contracts have to continue, you still have to pump oil out of the ground because you have a contract that's going to go on for another 6 or 7 months. So there's that, there's that bulk of business that's going to continue to fly for a while. But in retail, hospitality, travel, events, all of that stopped immediately. And in this company's case, they pivoted so quickly to be where their customers are at home, and stuck without having to be going to the beauty shop, and turning their salespeople into image consultants, essentially online, and having private sessions with consumers, one-on-one interactions with consumers to test different kinds of makeup and application, and really be there for their customers, really change the dynamic of that sales and consumer experience to be very personal and to be intimate in ways that you're not going to be able to do that at a store where there's a lot of people in a crowd. And so that's been a huge success for them in changing that paradigm of the consumer seller relationship. And
yeah, you'd think that sheltering at home, you're limited in the number of people that you need to impress, but you also have some level of concern and anxiety, and feeling bad about yourself, and but you may be sheltering with one of the most important people in your life, and when that comes up, that's an opportunity to feel better for yourself, and also an opportunity to show off to the people that you're sheltering with. So
I'll add one more kind of case study here. That's not, it's more of a kind of thing that's in flight. And one of our clients is a multi-billion-dollar construction and engineering firm. So they build highways, they build nuclear power plants and dams and whatnot. And their construction is continuing in flight, right? They've got construction sites where there are literally thousands of people that have to be on the job, and they've had to shut down or pull back or in some way make some changes. And one of the things that they had put together was a global innovation group to talk about how they can innovate their internal organization, how they can innovate for their employees, how they can innovate for their customers. And these are really recent conversations we've had in the last few weeks. They have taken that innovation group and they've doubled it with the idea that now that they've got people kind of sitting on the sidelines a little bit, waiting to get back into the active workforce, that there's an opportunity now to pull some information that's in between their ears and say, if you could make some changes in the way we do our business, how would you do that? And polling employees to get that information back and create some really innovative technologies that will enable better operational efficiency, drive productivity, and get an opportunity to kind of speak to their employees in a way that they wouldn't have ordinarily been doing that. And it's been, and for the executive management team, it's all of a sudden this flood of great ideas have been surfaced that now it's a problem of, well, we got too much. So it's kind of interesting to watch how different companies make the change and react to this kind of this new normal. But that's one that's kind of fresh and live. It's happening. We're having conversations with them right now, and it's interesting to kind of see how a global organization can move that fast and change the paradigm.
Yeah. Hey, Amber.
If you're on mute.
Yeah, we have everything locked down so we don't have Zoom booms and all those other horrible things that keep happening on these webinars all over the world right now. So, we did have one quick question. Somebody was wondering if you could repeat the name of the Chinese cosmetics company.
I'm probably not going to do it justice, but it's spelled Lin and then Quigxuan. But we could send it out when we send, you and Jess have it, and we could send it out when we send out the recording.
Perfect. That's what we would do. I've got a quick question for you all, just because, there is things are starting to slowly open up. I know most people are being extra cautious about what they're doing and how they're getting involved in everything. From a marketing perspective, for companies that are starting to open, like, what is some advice that you have of taking those first steps of letting people know, like, we're doing this and we're doing this safely and here's how? Should we just have a whole other webinar about that?
Well, actually, our next roundtable is going to be of how to deal with remote workers. So
Perfect.
we think that may not be happening, but from your but I think your question is probably, from the CPG and the hospitality standpoint. It's the same situation that companies face, in normal times, is that you need to have developed communication channels with your customers and, know how to activate those, right? So, if you're trying to get new foot traffic in, the messaging you want to do is you want to understand, what their frame of mind is. So essentially building kind of new personas for the people, since they're working from home now, they're not coming out for business lunch. Are they coming out for lunch? Are they coming out for dinner? Are they buying for their family? Are they buying for themselves? And as part of these new personas, and part of these new customer journeys, understand what it is they're really trying to do and how to evaluate, the safety precautions that the human beings that are creating the demand are going to demand, and how to message the ones that you've undertaken.
I'll add some 2 cents here. It's just being willing to be flexible and be willing to try new ideas, even almost at a drop of a hat. I mean, things are moving incredibly fast right now, and truly understanding who your customer is and how they want to talk to you and how they expect to talk to you. User experience, consumer experience, all of that is incredibly important right now. And it's not, the normal stuff is not going to get you where you need to go. You've got to be willing to shake it up.
Yeah, well, and I think using empathy right now too, understanding that some people are nervous and they're frightened, and they've got reason to be. It's not 100% clear, and I know for us, we're looking at, is the second wave going to hit, and when does it hit, and what does that look like? So I think being nimble and being empathetic and understanding that people have concerns. Well, I want to thank both Mike and Michael for leading this conversation today. It was very helpful to get a better understanding about the marketing perspective, what's going on out there, and how companies are addressing it. It's been a very helpful and great conversation. We're going to keep Slido open for 45 minutes, just in case there are any questions that you think of between now and when you're done eating lunch today. The Slido code again is 23043. So if you have any other further questions, we can get them to Mike and Michael and get answers out to you. We look forward to seeing you at our next roundtable, which will be tomorrow with VCFO. We'll be talking about the Paycheck Protection Program, the new forms that came out in the last week, and what companies need to know about as they're looking to have those loans forgiven. If you have any questions for the team here, you can reach our team at ATC. info@austontechnologycouncil.org. Again, that's info@austontechnologycouncil.org, and we can get you in touch with the EX Squared team. We would like you to all take care this coming weekend. I think there's going to be a lot of rain, so the likelihood that we're all going to try to congregate in large spaces is going to be low, but please make sure you're wearing your masks as you're going out to get involved. And be out in the community. Please make sure you're washing your hands and taking care of yourself so that all of this can end and we can all be together in person soon. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, ATC.